to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. We really want to thank everyone that supports us on Patreon. We appreciate, love you so much. Thanks for the subscribers, beloveds. Thanks for liking and sharing the video. It's so critical right now to kind of try and counteract what the shadow banning of YouTube, but those are definitely stories for other days. You know, today I wanted to talk a bit about why we're seeing, why all these nations are so vulnerable to the global engineered famine that is unfolding. Because we're starting to see, I started talking about empty shelves, I think, at the beginning of the year. And now it's becoming more prevalent. We're going to start seeing a lot of panic buying. I think they even started to say toilet roll once again was out of, was out of stock. Many are warning of panic buying, but many are ready. And those who are ready, you are so highly favored to have been prepared at such a time as this, because it's going to get crazy out there. And the funny thing is, even supermarkets across the divided states have been asked to start having security at the door. Big burly men. Because we've been seeing such an increase in crime, an increase in, empty shelves, shoplifting, all these things. And this is mainly happening in Babylon, beloveds. It hasn't quite hit, Mama Africa yet. Let me know if it has in your country across Africa. But, we're still living in the engineered poverty reality, majority of our people, that has been created by Babylon. So it's almost we're in like a stay position. But Babylon is falling and Babylon is so preoccupied. So if you are in Babylon, then I wanted to explain why it is so important. Because there's someone who sent me an email and I could really understand her innocence. And she was like, I really don't get what the panic is all about. Like, explain it to me like a 5-year-old. And I was just like, wow, like some people really don't see it. And it's because of what you've been allowing to go in here. Either you've been allowing too many distractions to enter your life, way too many distractions to enter your life, or you've been listening to the propaganda machines of mainstream media, and you've been following along their gravy train to hell. And you see, there's something we learned in university, and I know some people will remember. I don't know if you guys learned the just-in-time model. And what happened is, like, in the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of businesses which used to, you see, the whole idea has been about bringing us on this globally online. So a lot of businesses used to get their things from like the moms, the pops, they used to stock around their town, around their city, around their, county or whatever you want to call it. They'd get the majority of the things would come there. So you'd have mainly what is locally available, and then things that were brought in from far were kind of rare. But now what we see, especially in countries where Babylon system is reigning, is that you have more things from abroad, from all over the world. And the things from your own hometown, your own city, your own community is what has become rare. And a lot of supermarkets also used to stock a lot of stuff. So they'd have stock for 3 months, 6 months, but then they came up with the system that I was mentioning, the just-in-time, JIT, just-in-time system. And that's what created this whole trucking network and everything, where you wouldn't keep a lot of stock and your stock would be replenished every couple of days. Well, now we're witnessing there's a massive tug of war going on with truckers in Babylon, especially in the divided kingdom, in countries like Australia, in countries like the divided states, where many are being forced to make very difficult choices. Others that, it's just not paying enough. They've had to work throughout this whole pandemic. So we're seeing a lot of logistical issues. Then there's also a lot of ships. Remember I mentioned that some ports in China had actually been closed down? We're also hearing that off the shore of Miami, there's hundreds of ships with goods that are not being let in because of the pandemic. So it's like if you look closely, you can see how everything has been engineered. And remember, Agenda 21, which is what they're trying to manifest now, the plan of total control for the next 100 years, is basically, one of the basic things is to have everyone online and then control everyone globally. And they started that in 1992, beloveds. So you'd better believe any system that they created for their businesses or anything was created with that in mind. So it's so, so important that we recognize that. Sorry, I can hear like there's just so much noise in the background, beloveds. And so now it's like it's so easy to collapse national systems because they're so reliant on this just-in-time system. And the just-in-time system is basically like you stock food for 1 or 2 days, and then they'll bring you the new stock. So if the system collapses in any way, or there's any kind of situation like what we're seeing now with the pandemic, it's very dangerous because then you can't stock your shelves. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa. Welcome back, beloveds, to Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. So happy that you could join me. And, we have to be aware, beloveds, that this whole scenario that we're witnessing, which is kind of scary, like a global famine, literally, a global food shortage is what is coming. And it's going to hit Babylon during the winter like they planned. But there's a lot of food shortages. They've already messed with the food cycles across Africa. And someone was even emailing me and telling me, like, Africa doesn't even have a seed bank. Well, maybe that we know of. I'm sure there's a seed bank somewhere, somehow, somewhere, some way. And nature is our seed bank. But anyway, those are stories for other days. But it's so they created this system. Agenda 21 was created in 1992, beloveds. I think that's when George Bush Sr., when he even said it, the New World Order, blah, 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 blah. And that's their 100 years of domination, their 100 years of their world, this technological police state. And so they messed with everything. And the thing that they messed with the most is the food supply. Because when people don't have food, you have total control over them. And so for the majority of the world, the food that is on your plate is not coming from your community. It's coming from all over the world. And this has been done. So we've all been, mishmashed. Apart from the so-called poor in Africa. Or the villagers who may not really have an idea. But I swear, those things have even penetrated to this level. And so with this just-in-time logistics system, it means that any little hiccup, the whole system is threatened with collapse. Because the shops and the supermarkets don't have extra stuff. And that's why I've been saying, beloveds, it's so critical at this time to become as self-sufficient as possible. To stock up on those things that you just couldn't do without. And many of them aren't even available like that online or in your local supermarket. As I said, Africa, really, we haven't been hit by that, except for the prices keep increasing. So they keep falling out of people's range. So today you could afford this soap, but tomorrow you can only afford this one because people's salaries aren't changing. So that's how we're seeing this hitting Africa. But we haven't started to see empty shelves yet. And especially like here in Kenya, we're one of the bread baskets. So, our vegetables and fruits are still flowing. But those are the ones that are usually used to feed, Europeans. Because there's a whole mishmash with the logistics, with the shipping system. So we'd better prepare for the times ahead, beloveds. Don't be caught out and be forced to be fighting for the last loaf of bread with other family members. Learn to make a lot of your own food from breads. I mean, if you're still eating bread. To learn to make as much of your own food, to process as much of your own food. That's why, seriously, this season, it's best to be vegetarian, growing your own food, beloveds. And if you must eat meat, at least let it be something you've slaughtered in a humane way. No judgment, though. But really become creative, become self-sufficient. And the greatest challenge is for you people who have spoiled your children by making them addicted to the things of the Babylon system. Because they're the ones who are going to be the most lost if you're not careful. They're the ones who are going to be crying on your shoulder and making you drive all to like 20 supermarkets to get their favorite, juice or their favorite this. Like, wean you and your family off all this fancy stuff. Go as local as possible. Find a local farmer's market. Find a local farmer that you could buy some things from. Because even everyone is being hit on this supply chain. Even farmers have come out and said they just couldn't survive. Some said they were allegedly paid to destroy their harvest. But this whole logistical system is just going to get worse because there's a war on the truck drivers, as I mentioned before on the break. They're not taking it lying down. Many are quitting, so there's not even enough of them to drive the food, to drive food around. So there's been so many harvest failures, beloveds, but it's all engineered because a lot of these countries had food saved, massive food banks. I thought the divided states had like a massive food bank for like 5 years for their population, although some people are saying that they've actually been tapping into that crisis food this last year. But you see, everything is breaking, beloveds. And if you look at it from an ego's point, you can see it's just Babylon. All the pillars are coming down. Some they're pushing down themselves. Like this food situation is all about control. It's all about control because they know the minute you don't have enough food, you will do whatever it takes to make sure you have food on your table. And it reminds me of a situation here in Kenya of how they got a lot of our grandmothers and grandfathers. Is they came and there was a massive famine. Whether they were involved because they chased a lot of our ancestors from their land, so they weren't producing bumper harvest. They had to go work on the Muzungu land because they introduced hut tax and all these things. But a lot of our people at the Agikoyo had managed to resist the invasion of the Muzungu until this famine came, beloveds. And when the famine came, the missionaries and the Mzungus who had set up shop well, and they'd been, healing people, putting bandages on people, cutting people open and doing things that our doctors were much more advanced in doing. They joined their churches. So they'd already set up their systems so that by the time this great famine hit, and our people literally had nothing, no food, no nothing, but they were being told, come over to the churches, we have food. But when you went to the church, beloveds, you were told to remove your garments, to remove your sacred bracelets, to remove your sacred earrings and your sacred headdress, and put on the clothes of Babylon and take on a Babylonian name just to get food. And so many people did that. And it wasn't even about the adults that did that, but it was about the children that got sacrificed into that covenant and into that life. So this thing of preparing yourselves, beloveds, a lack of preparation will make you a sitting duck. If you've been preparing, prepare some more. Go over your preparations. It's go time now. It's literally go time. And you'll be so grateful for that you started early. And if you haven't started, start today. Start today. Go and get a bit of extra food. Start to wean yourself over those, the special this that you like, the special pasta and the special juice and the special what. Start to wean yourself off those things, those extras, those fluff, because you don't need them. Because how many will really be strong enough to say no when it comes down to, getting some food to eat. Many won't be able to, beloveds. Many will have to go the ancestors' way, remove their total identity and take on another person's identity, live in another person's world with their rules, with their crazy, psychotic ways, just to get some food to eat. And that's where a lot of people are heading, beloveds. And it's because of this whole global system where we're all eating out of each other's plates, to the point where so many of us have forgotten how to grow and make our own food. Like, it sounds so alien when you say that. Tuko pamoja.